So in this video, I'm going to be doing remove duplicates from sorted array 2. So given an integer array nums, sorted in non-decreasing order, remove some duplicates in place such that each unique element appears at most twice. The relative order of these elements should be kept the same. Since it's impossible to change the length of the array in some languages, you must instead have the result be placed in the first part of the array nums. More formally, if there are k elements after removing the duplicates, then the first k elements of nums should hold the final result. It does not matter what you leave beyond the first k elements. Okay. Okay, so each element must appear at most twice. Meaning, let's look at some examples. In this case, it would be 1, 1, and then 2, 2, and then 3. And then one thing to note is it has to be done in place. So we cannot create a new array. We have to modify the input array. Okay, so okay, one thing I can do is basically if I can identify the elements that need to be removed, then I can give those elements a value, a very distinct value with, let's say, integer.max value. And then I can simply sort the array, and then all the elements that have to be removed will now be at the end of the array because they now have the max value. But in order to do that, I need to identify elements that have been in the array for more than 2 times. Okay, so, and I think for what I'm going to do to identify that is I'm going to use a hash map. So let's do hash map integer frequency equals new hash map. Okay, so this is going to store as the key the integer, and then as its value will be the frequency of that integer in the array, so how much it has occurred in the array. Okay, now let's say for int I equals 0, I is smaller than nums, dot length. So for each element in I, if freq.get nums at I is smaller than 2, so in that case we simply actually let's do it the other way. Let's say if it's greater than 2, then first thing we need to do is let's say nums at I equals integer.max value. I think this is the right syntax to give me the max value. Okay, and then regardless, we need to say freq dot put in nums at I, freq.put nums at I it's going to be frequency dot get or default nums at I 0 plus 1. Okay, so I think this is the right syntax. I'm saying that I'm going to put into frequency as the key nums at I at the value. As the value, I'm going to get the current value with key nums at I, or if that's not in there, it'll give 0 plus 1. So I'm going to increment that value. So increment free and then I also have to return the first. I also have to return k, meaning the number of non-duplicate or number of like values minus the duplicate ones. So we will have a counter int duplicates equals 0, and then we'll just keep that here. So if we'll do duplicates plus plus, because this is the ones that I will end up removing. Okay, so if the frequency of this integer is currently greater than 2, then we will do the steps to remove it. Otherwise, we will increment the frequency of this integer. And then now, once I'm done with this array, we can simply do arrays.sort nums, which will move all of these integer.max values to the end, and then we can say return nums.length minus duplicates. Okay, let me just double check that I have the correct logic here. So we have our map frequency. We have duplicates set to 0 for each element in my array. If frequency at here, if frequency dot get nums at I is greater than 2, that's the right syntax. Then we increment duplicates, and we set nums at I to integer max value. Okay. Otherwise, we simply, well, not otherwise, but in any case, then we simply increment the value stored for frequency for this element in the array. We increment that by 1. Okay, and then we sort nums, and then we return nums.length minus duplicates, which will give us k. Okay, let me give it a run. Okay. Integer dot max value. How do I get the right syntax for that? Is it, I think it might be integer. I think maybe this is not capitalized, so we'll do integer dot max value. Okay, run. Oh, just a syntax error here. What does this mean? Null pointer exception. Put frequency dot get. Okay, so I think first I first I need to put it in here. Yeah, first I need to put it in here. Is that true? Yeah, first I need to put it in here, I think, because right now it's looking for it when nothing's necessarily even in there. So, okay, cool. It's working for the test cases. Let's see if it works for everything. Okay, perfect. There we go.